Welcome back, everyone. It is my pleasure to once again moderate the poster sessions for the conference. Welcome to poster session number 1. This is going to be much less stressful than moderating the last session, I tell you that. So as ever, we have a fantastic cast for you. And thank you to the organizers and to Bernie for preparing this so well for me. We have 11 presenters in the first session. Each person has 4 minutes each to present. I have my handy iPhone to time you, and I'm not shy about interrupting, as you know. And we will take it in batches of 4, 3, and 4. So we will start with Kate McCready, followed by Sam Teplitzky, followed by Eric Hellman, followed by John Sherer, and then we will take a break. I will share my screen so long as everything goes well. Ready, crew? Here we go. Ooh. Oh, there we go. This one.
That's working now, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Kate McCready, can you take it from here, please? 4 minutes, go.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Hello, I am Kate McCready. I'm a librarian at the University of Minnesota in the United States, and I'm currently serving as the visiting program officer for Academy-owned scholarly publishing at the Big Ten Academic Alliance. And I'm here today to, of course, learn from all of you and also to share the news about the Big Ten Open Books Project. This summer, we launched this site by publishing our first open access collection of 100 scholarly monographs, previously published by 6 of the university presses in the Big Ten Academic Alliance. And the focus of this first collection is gender and sexuality studies. The presses involved and the universities that are members of the Big Ten Academic Alliance are listed on the slide. The library initiatives of the BTAA are coordinated by the deans of the 15 libraries. And last August, those leaders made a bold commitment to make the work of advancing a just, trustworthy, scalable, sustainable, and open ecosystem our lead purpose. And while we are making open, more equitable scholarship the focus in all we do, whether it is in our work to manage resource sharing, or when we license commercial content, or when we support the creation of content as we do in the Big Ten Open Books Project. So the primary goal of this project is to create a sustainable path for making university press published works available in an accessible and well-preserved open access format. We are creating a structure that brings university press staff and librarians together to collaborate on a solution for open access monograph publishing. The implementation planning for this project was led by 4 librarians and 4 university press staff, who outlined the steps that we took then to build this first collection. The content is fully open access and licensed for reuse. The technical infrastructure for the collection is open source. We're using Fulcrum at the University of Michigan. And we're ensuring that the collection is distributed through open distribution channels, JSTOR Open Books, Project Muses Open Books, and all the books are listed in OASPA. Our vision for the future and the work we're doing to build the next collections involves extending our business model, streamlining the work to clear the copyrights needed to release the content in open access formats, and to improve and standardize the accessibility and preservation of the OA editions. And lastly, to develop best practices for engaging authors and scholars in our work. And librarians, a special note to you, you can download the MARC records at the big10openbooks.org site. We've added all these works to OCLC's knowledge base, and they're in worldcat.org. They're also in EBSCO's and Ex Libris's discovery systems. So we encourage you to add these titles to your library and let us know if you have other suggestions for routes for sharing these materials. Thank you.
Nice, thanks very much, Kate. Let's go to Sam. If there are questions, we will have a break after the 4th presentation, so we can take those verbally. Sam, 4 minutes, go.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone from Berkeley, California. My name is Sam Teplitzky. I am the Open Science Editor at Seismica, as well as a librarian at UC Berkeley. At its heart, Seismica is a community-driven diamond open access journal for peer-reviewed research in seismology and earthquake science. The journal is free for authors and free for readers. And in addition to research articles, we also publish other formats such as fast reports, null results, and software articles. Our scope covers kind of the usual research topics as well as methods and instrumentation, community engagement, communication, and outreach. Since it formed in late 2020, the Seismica board has been composed of a management committee of 5 executive editors, including myself, and the others handle production, community operations, and EDI or DEI, depending on where you're from. We also have a group of about 20 handling editors serving 3-year terms, and then several working groups that have later evolved into more permanent teams who handle technical issues, standards and copy editing, media and branding, our special issues, and our fast reports. In October, we will celebrate 1 year since the publication of our first article. And in this year, we've really focused on growing our community sustainably. We've published 2 regular issues and 1 special issue for the February 2023 Turkey earthquakes. We've had over 90 submissions. Of those, 50 or so articles are in some stage of review or production, and this is slightly incorrect already. 32 have been published. 12 of those articles that have been published have garnered about 60 citations in our first year. We've succeeded in having a fast turnaround for our fast reports format of about 1 month and more like 4 to 5 months for full articles. We rely on the service of our volunteers as well as the support of McGill University Library for our OJS instance. But beyond the stats, what we've really tried to do is offer a new, more equitable scientific publishing opportunity in support of our community and in support of open science. I'll highlight a few efforts we have underway to build and strengthen our community. We've established an editorial mentorship program to assist new editors as they handle their first manuscripts. We've also woven EDI or DEI efforts into the fabric of our policies. We strive to recruit editors, reviewers, and authors from a wide variety of backgrounds, and we encourage abstracts in multiple languages to reach a wider audience. We're especially committed to reaching an audience beyond academia and higher education as well, including policymakers, educators, government, and industry affiliates, as well as the general public. Open science practices are also core to Seismica. We encourage authors to make data and code available, and we offer several repository recommendations. To date, we're still working on better integrations of data, code, and notebooks with our journal platform, but currently all but 2 articles have shared data, and those 2 articles had privacy protected or proprietary data. So in terms of future plans, we have a lot of work ahead. We're continuing to build our reputation, attracting submissions, and encouraging reviewer participation. We're also laying the groundwork to establish an impact factor and a presence in indexing databases. Operationally, we're working on plans for sustainability and succession, as well as documenting workflows and getting a better sense of the time commitments of all of our volunteers. And we continue to build community through different programs. We're hosting a workshop about researcher-run journals in December before an Earth Science meeting in San Francisco. And to finish up, we're about 1 year in, but hopefully we're establishing a model that other researcher communities might emulate as they also seek to open and share their work. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much. Let's go on to Eric Hellman.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Hellman. I run the Free Ebook Foundation, and this work is done in collaboration with Ronald Schneider from OAPN. OAPN hosts the DOAB database. Now, the Directory of Open Access Books, we all know how important that is for propagating all the metadata for open access books and making all those books available through MARC records and everything else like that, metadata downloads, etc. Now, DOAB, in order to work well, it relies on accurate metadata contribution from publishers. It also requires that publisher distribution platforms work reliably. And finally, it requires that the plumbing in between the publisher platform and the end user is working reliably. Now, unfortunately, each of those 3 steps can have problems that could make links not work. So this project was started to add vigilance to the DOAB database. What we've done is we've made a robot that goes out and checks all of the links in DOAB. There are about 69,000 links in DOAB, and the results can be viewed at doab-check.ebookfoundation.org, organized by publisher and by distribution platform. Now, the pie chart shows you the results of these checks. 94% of the links appear to be good. That's not bad. However, 6% of the links appear to have some sort of problem, and we can make that a lot better. There are all sorts of different problems that can happen, ranging from security problems to just broken links and things that are just, terribly wrong. But in order to fix those, the open access ebook community needs to work together. None of them are terribly hard to fix, but we have to find the right person to fix them, whether it's metadata, whether it's changing a setting on a server, or something like that. So this work is sort of a provocation to get the community to work together, to take that 64% to 99% good, to 99.9% good, or even better. So let's all work together. We don't want broken access. We want open access. Thanks.
Nice, Eric. Thank you. We have one more before we break, and that is John Sherer.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you all for attending. There's growing support for the move to open access among university presses. After all, there's new evidence almost everywhere we turn that OA books circulate exponentially more than paywalled editions. For organizations whose mission is to distribute high-quality scholarship as broadly as possible, we've never had a tool as powerful as OA. That usage data upends the declension narrative we've heard about the monograph for decades. It turns out it's not the monograph that's broken, it's the business model for distributing them that is becoming more sclerotic every day. But if we're going to be asked to give up the income we get from digital editions while being exposed to potential print sales erosion because there are free copies easy to find online, the conventional wisdom is that there's no way to do that without putting significantly more money into the system. Even if there was more money in the system, which is a pretty significant hypothetical, how much would you need? Can we empirically show the impact on print revenues when digital editions are free? These are the questions that we posed. The co-PIs of this project were Eric Van Ryn, the director of the University of California Press, Brendan McLaughlin, the director of research and communications at the Association of University Presses, and myself at UNC Press. We partnered with Roger Schoenfeld and Laura Brown at ITHAKA S&R, and our work was generously funded by the NEH. And as it happens, our report was published today. The average print revenue the data set we collected is available at the URLs, the DOIs below, so I encourage people to review it and draw their own conclusions, but this poster shows what we saw. The average print revenue among the 1,000 or so titles was over $15,000. This is very surprising since most university press monographs aspire to generate that kind of income. The gap between average and median revenues reveals that there are a dozen or so very heavy-hitting outliers. When you take them out, the average revenue comes down pretty significantly to more like $8,000, although almost $9,000 when you include ebook sales. And yes, I said ebook sales. There's a quirky thing you're going to notice in the data set, which is there were a lot of ebook revenue for these titles. Free editions went to academic institutions through platforms like Muse, JSTOR, EBSCO, OASPA, etc. OAPN, I'm sorry. But some presses simultaneously charge for editions through places like Amazon, Kindle. It raises some interesting questions about ethics and entrepreneurship that were a bit outside of our scope, but something to consider. But going back to the outliers question, it would be fair to suggest that you should remove the outliers since they make such a difference on the numbers. On the other hand, I've been in academic as well as commercial publishing for 3 decades, and it's a fundamental premise behind the revenue models of almost every form of publishing that a handful of books generate a disproportionate amount of revenues. Every publishing model breaks if you take the top revenue generators out of the equation. It's interesting to note that it turns out that this is true even in the world of open access. And it proves that OA doesn't fundamentally preclude the possibility of generating significant income. Like most studies, ours generated as many questions as it did answers. We need a deeper longitudinal study that looks at the long tail of OA monographs. There's a nice body of research that indicates scholars and even general readers prefer print to digital when it comes to immersive reading of long-form texts. Monographs are digitally discovered, but many readers pivot to print. We just don't know what that conversion rate is. Is there a potential model where we think of OA as not a threat to print editions, but as the killer app, the best marketing tool we've ever had to lure readers into a book, maybe even into a print book? Even if the conversion rate from digital discoverability to print purchases is tiny, there may be a sustainable model here. We're seeing engagement rates for digital monographs in the thousands and frequently in the tens of thousands. That's a very large pool of potential print customers. Could there be a scenario over the long tail where print editions of OA books are not selling less than paywalled editions, but actually selling more? Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay, as Bernie has said, we have a few minutes for questions. So let's go to the Q&A box. Thank you very much, Vanessa, for your question for Sam. So Sam, could you please tell us a bit about how your journal is funded? And Vanessa wanted to confirm that she heard voluntary work and library support. Yeah, what's your current model, and do you have plans for changing?
Yeah, thanks for the question. As noted, yeah, we are hosted by McGill University Library, and they handle our OJS instance. But we also have a wealth of expertise in the community. So we've had volunteers build out a reviewer database. We have a whole workflow that kind of exists within OJS and then pulls pieces in and out to the side. We have a group who does media and branding and social media promotion of all of our articles. We have another group that handles copy editing and translation. And yeah, all of those are volunteers, largely early career researchers. And in the last couple of months, we also set up a site through Open Collective so that we can have a way of receiving funding. We're still working on that because we're a global organization and we weren't sure exactly how and where to host our funds. So Open Collective is set up and we have received small donations from researchers, but that's not a large portion. Essentially, it's McGill and volunteers.
Super, thank you so much. John, did you speak to print on demand in your presentation? Is that a significant stream of either effort or revenue?
Yeah, great question. We actually didn't inquire whether the print sales were from offset or short run digital or print on demand. We kind of thought we could be agnostic at that because really it was more about what the consumer prefers as opposed to the publisher strategy. That said, there's some interesting data or interesting things in the data that do suggest strategies for presses that per title revenue increase, for example, when hardcover editions were available as well as paperbacks. And so I think people can look at the data and glean some publishing strategies, but we didn't really address the POD, although our assumption was that most of the books that were sold probably were print on demand.
Super. Thanks very much. Thanks for the questions, folks. I appreciate it. Kate, is this a colleague of yours? Is it another Kate asking what your plans may be for future collections?
I don't think we know each other, but but I like sharing the name. But we have a list of potential topics that we are working on, and we are currently in our kind of planning phase, looking at our funding options and strengthening our business model for when we are going to be releasing this out. The first collection was funded internally in the Big Ten. The libraries of the Big Ten shared the costs for opening the content, but we want to make that a bit broader. So we're working on that. So all the topics will be in areas that elevate marginalized and diverse authors. So that's kind of the framework that we're working under for what the collections might be.
Great. Thank you. Eric, I have a question for you. So I'm working in data now, folks may know, and I really appreciate the interrogation of the quality of the corpus after the fact. Could you, I just don't know, Eric, do you know much about the submission checks that happen at DOAB in terms of the metadata they take in from publishers and what standards they're trying to maintain at that point?
So Ronald Schneider probably has is more able to answer that than I am. You know, there are some checks, but technical checks are often beyond the capacity of the team looking at the data.
Okay. Cool, thank you. And Vanessa Proudman, that gets me thinking about capacity for infrastructure management and what types of support we need to build up, scale, and fund automation. But that's another conversation. Okay, another question for Sam. Sam, can you see it in the QA? I'll just read it out.
You don't need to read it. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, can you speak to the question and the answer at the same time?
Sure. The question is sort of specific to the nature of seismological research and the type of research that's kind of more academic and global versus exploration geophysics, which tends to be more industry-based and perhaps more proprietary in their results. I should say at the outset, I'm not a seismologist. I have a background broadly in earth science, but the specifics are not something I'm an expert in. I would say our submissions to date have been wholly from academic teams, though at least one group did use proprietary data. And I think to make it of broader interest to everyone, I think that is a challenge, that balance of pushing for open science, open data, open code, sharing all of these pieces of work, when knowing that there may be, you don't have to be strident about the full process. There may be circumstances where not everything can be shared, but to date, so far, everything has been more on the academic side. So it does sort of, people are more open to that open science workflow, definitely.
Super, thank you. Fantastic start, team. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next swathe. So we are going to do 3 now. We're going to do John Lenahan, Hannah McKelvey, and Rachel McLean, and then Sergio Santamarina and Carlos Altier. So here I go with sharing my screen. There, Ruby, tell me I've done it.
That's there, you've done it. Thanks, Jen.
All right, John, please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, Jennifer. Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. John Lenahan, the Vice President of Published Content over at JSTOR, and going to talk today about a new program that will be launching on October 1st called Path to Open. This is to have licensed Monograph content then have a pathway for open access after a 3-year period. And I'll talk through this and kind of where we got to where we are. This was in collaboration with some of our partners at University of North Carolina Press, John, who we heard about earlier, and ACLS and University of Michigan Press, and Charles Watkinson, who are all closely involved in putting this program together along with JSTOR. And what we really were looking at was trying to tackle the problem around the sustainability of open access publishing for monograph content, and looking at existing models to see, like, how do you have assurance and guarantees that a book is going to have a pathway to open access? How do you have assurances of upfront funding that are available to make sure that there isn't questions about whether or not a book will become open access? How do we have more inclusion of smaller to medium-sized publishers to be included in the program? And how can a program really grow, not just to one large university press or commercial publisher, or a small number of publishers, or an expensive program that has its own platform and costs that you have to maintain? How do we work within the infrastructures that are already in place in a cost-effective way to allow for more books to become open access instead of more funding and costs going to try to support making them discoverable. So we end up looking at that current situation, evaluated everything between the libraries to the university presses and to the authors. So what are the authors looking for and need? And obviously the university presses have close collaboration with the authors, and they want to make sure that they can understand the impact of their scholarship. Readers around the world who might not be part of an academic institution, who's actually paid for an ebook or a print book to get circulated at the library, how do they get access to the scholarship? And some of the key things here that helped us is we looked at data, and we have now over 10,000 open access books on the JSTOR platform, and we looked at what happens to books when they were originally just licensed and available through an academic library, and then when they're made open access. Usage increased over 5,500% for books when they were converted from licensed to open. Some of our top countries of usage started to be in the Philippines and Malaysia, areas of India, that when they were strict to licensed book content, they had no usage. They weren't having access to those books, but making them open and providing a pathway for books to be open allows for readers around the world to have more access to the scholarship being published from the authors associated to these university presses. So we proposed a solution that allowed for a low-cost option for libraries to pay for a low recurring fee that supports then the sustainability of the program. The presses then will receive a payment guaranteed, a certain dollar amount that they're able to have for books that become published in the program. Authors are going to get data along with presses and libraries to understand what the impact of their scholarship is. And readers after a 3-year period get access to these books that didn't have a pathway to open access in the past. So we could see here how it works. It's an annual subscription, guaranteed of open access. ITHAKA has provided funding up front to ensure, regardless of library participation, publishers have a guaranteed payment. We have about 38 publishers in the program. We have the first 100 titles already identified that will be part of going live October 1st. There'll be 1,000 books to be published over this 3.5-year pilot period. And the goal here is that this becomes transformative in the future. This is how books then become available to libraries, how publishers can use this channel to make more and more books available, and libraries can have access to a broader number of books through this path to open process and see the overall global impact it has when these move their way over to open access after duration of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's now move to Hannah and Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rochelle McLean. I'm the Collection Development Librarian at MSU. And today we want to share with you how our library is supporting OA publishing via our collections budget. With around 5.9 million total each fiscal year, we get to support our authors by currently being involved in 7 transformative agreements with both large and small publishers. Since 2020, when our first transformative agreement went live, we've saved our authors over $145,000 in APC spend, which was equal to about 52 articles that are published OA. Our collections budget also sets aside a $50,000 author fund where our authors can apply to have their APCs covered for any publisher. And since 2016, that fund has spent roughly $350,000. And in addition, we've estimated a spend of around $20,000, give or take, each year to support those additional subscribe to open initiatives, memberships, and pledges that support OA. We note many benefits to using our collections budget in this way. So we continue to be a part of that equitable access to research. We get to financially support an author who wants to make their work open, but may find themselves unable to secure another funding source to do so. Our TAs allow that separate author fund to stretch even further. And finally, each time an author is contacted by a publisher, telling them that they have the opportunity to make their work open, it's a chance for our authors to connect with the library. And we always welcome new advocates for the library and for the work that we're doing.
Thanks, Rochelle. However, while there are many positives to using our materials budget to support open scholarly publishing, it's not without challenges. We've had to give up perpetual access rights to journals in order to join a transformative agreement. Libraries provide more than just journal articles to their users. Much of what we're supporting openly is still in the journal realm, meaning there's less money to support other needs within our community. Authors sometimes don't make the connection that the library is the one funding their article processing charges through agreements with publishers, and it can be hard to quantify the use and value of supporting open, as there isn't a standard reporting protocol in place yet, like counter reports for traditional article usage. As our materials budget continues to support open initiatives, publishers must be transparent in their pricing models and plan for shifting to open. This helps us decide how best to support that publisher. We've been turned away by publishers because our university didn't meet their ideal read and publish customer profile. Don't underestimate the value of working with smaller schools. There are also consortium deals that we're aware of where if a library does not agree to participate in the transformative agreement, they won't be allowed to be part of that deal at all. This really puts unnecessary pressure on libraries. There are many challenges to workflows for both publishers and libraries as the way we work together evolves, and no one can predict how open will impact library budgets. However, as the shift to an open world continues, libraries must be seen as equals in this movement, and it is important to be mindful and aware of how some library budgets are at present supporting open scholarly publishing. Thank you.
Jennifer, you're mute.
Did the moderator lose their connection? I'm sorry about that. Let me share your poster. Give me 1 second. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this poster we made together with Carlos Ortier. I'm Sergio Santamarina. I'm the coordinator librarian at the Universidad Nacional de José C. Paz in Argentina. I feel that the poster it really is in tune with everything we have been talked today, with the key on collaboration, on going beyond journals, and the interoperability of data and research results. In today's research ecosystem, persistent identifiers play a crucial role in providing a means to permanently identify a wide range of digital objects, including articles, books, authors, documents, datasets, and artwork. Digital object identifiers have emerged as an effective and standardized solution for this identification. However, in many regions of the Global South, the adoption of DOIs is limited because their associated cost is unaffordable for many institutions, like the one I represent today. In the first map, we can see that the different registration agencies related to the scholarly communication landscape, some of them are national level, and some, like the Japanese agency, the Chinese, the South Korean, and the Taiwanese, they have national policies applied to the assignation of DOIs. For example, the Chinese DOI has a policy that you can, if you submit your research in Chinese and you deposit it in the repository, in the National Science Repository, the DOI is free. The South Korean also have the policy to provide free DOI to all the researchers in South Korea. The Japanese have a different pay that, regarding that, according to the institution that is funding where the research is coming from. These agencies have their own policies regarding the access to these DOIs. Also, the major agencies like Rosref and DataSite, they have also policies that can they include restrictions on the service to countries like Cuba, for example. The Cubans cannot get access to DOIs. the Cuban researchers, because of the commercial blockade, they cannot get access to DOI. This asymmetric infrastructure produces asymmetric results, as you can observe in the second map that we are presenting. This map was produced by Juan Pablo Alperin from the Simon Fraser University. He's also working in PKP, a big tool for us in Latin America for the production of diamond open access journals. And Rodrigo Costas from the Center for Science and Technology Studies. In this map, you can see they form the map according to the nationality of researchers that are in the Web of Science and Scopus. While taking inspiration from the African thinker Sabelo Mlambi, who said that the ability to come together and work together in ways that strengthen the relationship and interdependence within a society are the foundational structures for the advancement of humanity. Also, Mlambi underscored that in this increasingly connected world, denying our interconnectedness is dangerous and diminishes the human experience. Bantu ethics, with its principle of Ubuntu, Ngubuntu, Ngambantu, a person is a person through the other people. I mean, we are an individual because we are a community. Reminds us that the primary goal of ethics is the development of humanity through the development of others. Humanity. This ethical perspective should guide our decisions in technology, politics, economics, and society. That's why we are proposing a two-way approach to creating a sustainable open access infrastructure. This two-way approach is based on, first of all, to strive to create regional agencies for Africa and for Latin America. These agencies should make their own policy that in their own currency, or establish some fees that can be affordable for all the universities. We have the technology, we have the service, we can do it, we can manage it, but we need to get those agencies established. I think we propose that this can be a solution. And in the same way, in tandem to that proposal, we propose the development of a complementary persistent identifier infrastructure based on ARC and ISSN. This solution leverages the strengths of both ARC, known for the flexibility and decentralization, and ISSN established identifiers for all serial publications. National level agencies collaborating with regional DOA agencies can oversee the implementation of this infrastructure. Researchers and institutions in the region with limited DOI access can opt for ARC ISSN-based identifiers, ensuring their work's persistence and discoverability. This has many benefits, and also because if we are moving beyond journals and data, this research is every day more important. Persistent identifiers also are gaining every day more importance, and if we sustain this inequities in the infrastructure of the persistent identifiers, then we will be harming the science that is produced in the global south.
Sergio, can I stop you there?
Yes, no problem.
I'm sorry, we're a couple minutes over time, so I did have a little slack, but I'm run out now. Sorry for interrupting you. So I'm going to leave the slide up so folks can just absorb those last points on this slide here. And I'd also I'd really like to underline that point: a person is a person through other people, and that we develop one another's humanity through supporting one another, and that's it's a part of the world, and the world plays out in our community here. So working to understand one another, working to understand where the others come from will help us to work more powerfully as a collective. So thank you, Sergio, for that point. We're breaking now for
extension.
No, it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I'm sorry that we don't have so much time. There is a link in the chat to the slides, so please spend some time with it. And we'll just take a couple of questions now. Rochelle, the question about funding is a big one, and for those of us, so I know that for our colleagues who are working on campus and with institutions, I wonder if you could just describe a little bit for us what the funding dynamics are like and how you're successful in supporting research communication and scholarship. So, you know, for those of us who haven't worked on campus, we're just not aware. You know, we don't know how the money works between the library, the press, the provost office, and that type of thing. And y'all are investing so much. So could you just, I know it's tough and it's probably different campus to campus, but could you share a couple of insights on how you make that work?
Sure. So we get our money obviously from the state. It comes to the university, who then divvies it up. And so the library gets their chunk of money, the majority of which obviously goes to collections. Since I've been here between 2016 and last year, the budget was flat. And then through all that communication that we've been doing, we've been going to our Research Council, to our Faculty Senate meetings to talk about our collections budget. Thankfully, we've had two really supportive deans that have gotten us on those agendas. And so we just go up and have these presentations about, this is what things cost, this is why we have to cancel, this is how we want to spend the money on open. Remember, we have our author fund. Now we're doing these transformative agreements. And so we've been lucky just to be able to get in front of a lot of faculty that way. And then with the TAs, when authors are informed that they get they're getting it funded and they want to go through that, all the comments we've gotten have been like, oh my God, I didn't even know this existed. Thank you. Does that help answer what your question? And I don't know if Hannah has anything she wants to add.
Hannah, anything you want to add?
I don't think so. I think just what Rochelle said. I think that, I guess it kind of goes on the comment you made on the last poster, you know, that human connection has been really valuable in explaining how we spend the budget and how it's supported, and the importance of supporting open and all of that. It really does help build that advocacy. Whereas before, when we didn't have that direct connection, we had quite a few frustrated and angry people when they didn't understand you know, that we have a finite budget and the world of information is changing and we have to, you know, navigate all of that. And so that's all I would add, I think.
That's great. Thank you. We do have to move on to our other posters. It's a big topic. I have many more questions, but I'll stop there. So now going to move to our last batch. We will start with Graham and Alyssa, followed by Tim, hi Tim, followed by Amanda, followed by Tom Grady, and a video that I meant to share. Wish me luck. Okay, so back to the more basic problem of sharing my screen. Okay, Graham, you have 4 minutes. Please carry on.
Thanks so much, and hello everyone. I'll be presenting for both myself and for my colleague Elisa today. So I'm an assistant director in the Electronic Textual Cultures Lab in the University of Victoria in Canada. And in this talk, I'll just briefly introduce something called the Canadian Humanities and Social Sciences, or HSS Commons, as a tool for open access scholarly publishing. The Canadian HSS Commons, which I'll give the link to in the chat, it's an in-development national scale and bilingual community space for academics, students, and interested members of the public. And as a hub for open social scholarship, it combines elements of things like social networking sites and institutional repositories, allowing researchers to freely publish, share, access, and repurpose scholarly materials. The Commons has a number of key features I'll highlight here. First, it's hosted on Canadian servers, which is important for us because our legal framework in Canada provides several affordances and protections regarding privacy and confidentiality of user information. But you don't have to be in Canada to use the site. To sign in, you can use an existing ORCID account, Canadian institutional affiliation, or you can just create a general account as well. Our subject repository, where we publish things, mints DOIs for new publications. It follows FAIR guidelines for research data management, and it allows for Creative Commons licensing. I don't have time to show off everything you can do in the Commons, but you can also start groups and projects, for example, to collaborate. You can create collections and blog posts and much more. Although the Commons is now active more than ever with plans for continued growth, its history goes back a number of years, and we're grateful to the many partners we've worked with in consultation. So it's led by the Inc. Partnership and supported by partners in Canada, Australia, and the US, including the Federation for the Humanities and Social Sciences, the Canadian Research Knowledge Network, the Humanities Commons in the States, and many others. To give just two quick examples of what the communities we're working with use the site for. First, the open access journal IDEA, or Interdisciplinary Digital Engagement in Arts and Humanities, has been using the Commons to privately share submission materials and reviews. For each journal issue, the editors and copy editors upload material to a dedicated secure repository, and they also can use this project space to send private messages or create to-do items. A second quick example from another group called EATER Canada. EATER's working with us on a large-scale migration of open access back issues from their scholarly journals. That migration has already helped us add over 6,000 publications to our repository, and we hope that this work will serve as a model for other journals who may be interested in hosting materials on the Commons. Next steps. So as the site moves out of beta, there are still some known issues, and we're taking all feedback into careful consideration as we continue to improve the site. In the coming months, though, our team's interested in the following next steps: continuing to onboard scholarly societies, research groups, and journals, further integration with distributed repositories, greater integration with ORCID so that your Commons profile and publications sync directly with ORCID, and also setting up new instances so we can scale across disciplines nationally and internationally. That's about all I have time for, but if you're interested in learning more, please do check out our site and also the further reading blog post on our site. And yeah, please do visit us and set up your free account at any time. And do let me know if you have any questions about how you might be able to take advantage of the Commons for your own open access scholarly publishing initiatives. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much.
Perfectly timed. Thank you, Graham. Also from the far western side of Canada, Tim Vines. Tim, we meet again. 4 minutes.
Hello. Yes. Thank you. So too long didn't listen point is that there is a lack of actionable information around open science, and especially around open data. And DataSeer, which my organization is aimed at dispersing that. So the framework I want to talk about here is based around a piece of cake. That is, a piece of scientific research is composed of multiple layers. That's the article, which is sort of the icing. It's the description of what went on, but the rest of it, the body of the cake, is actually made up of lots of layers. So there's reagents, protocols, data sets, metadata that joins it all together, the code objects that analyze the data sets. And as we work through the research process, we can see that scientists, funders pay for the research, they pay salaries and things like that. And the scientists then do the research. And then at the end of that process, they send the article to a journal. Got my poster back, thanks. So scientists send the article to a journal. The journal publishes the article. The scientists then tell the funding agency at the end of the process about the article that they published. But you can see in the last 3 steps that the cake has disappeared. And this is a problem because the funding agency is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per piece of research, somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000 for a typical sort of life sciences or sciences aspect for the research. And when only the article becomes public, that means that all the other money invested in that has disappeared. And it also harms science because without the data sets, without the code objects and so on, we can't spend the money on anything else. we can't look at, sorry, lost my train of thought. We can't actually rerun the science. So what DataSeer is aiming to do here is to disperse the fog. We want to quantify open science. That's our first role. This is something we're doing through our open science metrics with funding agencies, journals, institutions. The example I've put up here is from PLOS. We've been working to help them with our open science indicators, and they are a tool for PLOS to understand what the open science behaviors are within the corpus of articles that they have. And this estimates, for example, the proportion of authors that share data within a particular quarter. Also, the proportion of authors that shared their articles of preprint, shared code, used a protocol, and so on. So these are actionable items for the journal to use when making decisions. And also, we aim to disperse the fog by enabling open science right at the article level. That is, helping authors understand, authors understand what they need to do to comply with an open science policy. And that means getting into the details of the manuscript, providing a list of the outputs that they have associated with the article, and helping them share each of those on the right repository. And this is frequently cited as a major barrier in doing open science, not knowing exactly what steps should be taken. So DataSeer helps authors deal with that. All right, that's me done. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Sorry, totally my fault. All right, Amanda, your turn.
Thank you so much. I think I'm unable to start my video, but I'm happy to present without it. Open journal systems is used by more than 34,000 journals worldwide, according to a recent study. Yep. The release of version 3.4 of OJS in June 2023 was a major milestone representing 2 years of work by Public Knowledge Project staff and volunteer contributors, and it included several significant improvements. One such improvement was the revision of statistics tools, which, in version 3.4, can better support analyzing institutional subscription data, and which are compliant with the latest version of the journal metrics standard, Counter 5 Sushi. To facilitate this much requested improvement in institutional statistics, PKP developers, including Bozana Bokan and Alex Smecher, decided to base OJS's new institution model on the Research Organization Registry, ROR. ROR is a global, community-led, curated registry of open persistent identifiers for research organizations that is seeing increasing adoption in the scholarly communications sector for many purposes, including identifying author affiliations, matching author affiliations to institutional open access publishing agreements, and exchanging clean and consistent research organization metadata between systems. ROR lists over 105,000 research organizations from 229 countries and offers a wholly free REST API and downloadable CC0 dataset, as well as metadata reconciliation tools and a free REST API endpoint for matching text strings to ROR IDs. Journal managers using OJS 3.4 can now add institution names, IP addresses and IP ranges, and ROR IDs for institutional subscribers to the journal in the institution's interface. Journal managers can also run reports on institutional subscriptions using ROR to track usage patterns, which is valuable knowledge for institutional subscribers. Users of current and earlier versions of open journal systems and open preprint systems can also use a ROR plugin that enables ROR for author affiliations within a journal or preprint repository. But this new incorporation of ROR into the primary code base and interface of OJS 3.4 represents a major vote of confidence in ROR as an organization identifier. Both PKP and ROR are committed to openness and to community governance, so this integration is a natural fit. ROR is currently the preferred organization identifier of major infrastructure systems such as Crossref, DataCite, ORCID, OpenAlex, The Lens, Sherpa Romeo, and many publishing, repository, and analytics systems. Adopting ROR for institutions allows OJS to interchange clean and reliable information about research organizations with other systems, which makes the entire research ecosystem more interconnected, more transparent, and in general, healthier. That's all.
Thank you, Amanda. My job is really hard over here. Okay, so thank you. And I have the Events Hub, just sending me instructions. And what I was going to try to do was this. So I think I'm still sharing my screen. And in the audio section, I was just going to play. So let's see what happens. Can anyone hear that?
There's no sound, Jen.
So there's a tiny little box that you check when you're sharing your screen that says share the sound. I've been bitten by this before. So if you unshare and then reshare, making sure to find that tiny little checkbox, then we will get the sound.
Okay. Share screen, share sound, desktop 2, share.
Tom from Copen.
Is there sound?
There is, yes. It just, if you can get it any louder, Jen, that's great. If not, then we'll work with it. Thank you.
Sure.
Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me to speak today. I'm Tom from Copen. So all the way back in 2020, Professor Martin Eve wrote in an article that the biggest blocker to open access seems to be economic. Book processing charges at £10,000 or $15,000 just won't scale in disciplines where a department's book purchasing budget is £7,000 or $9,000. And 3 years on, this still seems to be bang on when thinking about sustainability of funding for OA monographs. BPCs remain a significant route to producing these books. Now, new funder mandates seek to unlock more scholarship, but ironically, the big stick approach could actually backfire. There are kind of admirable and well-intentioned policies like the new UKRI one in the UK, the European Commission's recent statement, and similar mandates emerging or already in place in the Netherlands, Germany, and elsewhere. All of these are trying to push the sector more quickly towards OA for books. But there's a danger they could inadvertently entrench BPCs and make life difficult, particularly for smaller publishers, if they don't have an alternative OA funding mechanism of their own. So what is the alternative? Well, one alternative is the collective funding approach, or what is increasingly becoming called the diamond model of funding. Through diamond models, a press wishing to publish open access books typically offers a membership program to libraries, whereby they all collectively fund the press in their OA endeavors, and no library bears a disproportionate burden. And this has several benefits. It's scalable, because it doesn't fund one book at a time. The diamond approach funds the press at a deeper infrastructural level, enabling their staff to do all the many complex tasks that are required to publish books, sharing the metadata as well, running the platform, etc. It's a reliable income stream with which a press can plan properly. It's not piecemeal and ad hoc like BPCs, and it's not dependent on if an author brings funding with them. Of course, the flip side is also that libraries can plan their budgets too. And this is why I've given my talk today the slightly cryptic title of Getting Out from the Back of the Sofa. At the moment, a lot of OA monograph publishing is funded by libraries setting aside money where they can find it. Frequently, it's money left over at the end of a budget year or discretionary one-off pockets of money. And don't get me wrong, this is actually brilliant in many ways, and I'm sure publishers are grateful for all OA revenue. But the problem is that it's not sustainable, and nor is it reliable. It feels like money found down the back of the sofa. So what I and my colleagues at Copen are working on is enabling collective funding mechanisms and revenue models, particularly for smaller and medium-sized mission-led scholarly presses. We're working with publishers and the library community worldwide to try and carve out recurring budget lines in libraries so that they can support Diamond OA year on year, and publishers can rely and plan their activities properly. If you want to know more, check out the non-profit, community-led Open Book Collective, and also take a look at openingthefuture.net, where you can see the successful progress of a funding mechanism that uses a subscription to the backlist at Central European University Press and also at Liverpool University Press. The library subscription or membership is used by those publishers to produce brand new open access frontlist monographs. A collective approach like this is better for the scholarly publishing ecosystem. It's better for libraries, and ultimately it's better for authors and readers, neither of whom have to pay to publish or read. Thanks for listening. Working together, we can all get out from the back of the sofa.
Excellent. Okay, we are just at our time. Excellent range of presentations there. Thanks everyone for your submissions. We should stay on and take a couple of questions if there are any. Amanda, I didn't see the question from Bob, but I think that's a great answer. Do you mind just speaking to that verbally while so everyone can get that input?
Sure. Bob expressed a concern, which is, very legitimate about, who owns scholarly infrastructure. There certainly are very large organizations, but I think OJS is, to be honest, a model for all of us. And I do not represent PKP in any way, shape, or form. As I mentioned on my poster, there are 34,000 journals worldwide that rely on OJS. Sergio, I think, mentioned it as well. It is open source software. I've forgotten for the moment what the license is, but essentially it's, got a nice license to where many, many people can download and use it. They rely really heavily on community contributions, but they are financially supported. And again, I don't know the details. That website will go into the details. They have some institutional support. They are a core research infrastructure for Simon Fraser University, which really supports it because it is such a key alternative to commercial options, especially in what is often called the global South. Really, really heavy usage in Asia, Latin America, South America, that kind of thing. Anyway, so yeah, that's my answer to the question. No one owns OJS. There are people who run it, but many people contribute to it, and it's essentially donated to the community.
We are very grateful of their work as well. We are in South America.
Great.
And they also, sorry, just to add a little thing, there are some sprints that the PKP organized. So the developers and people that collaborate with the software, they get together. We had one in Bogota. There was one recently in Hanover, and that is very nice collaboration example that the people from different places get together to work in one project.
It's great. We're ending the first day of our conference now. So let me just circle around that message before we hang up. A part of the opening session was to say that the community assembled here feels strongly about the importance of open infrastructure, and OJS by PKP is an extraordinary example of successful open and open source infrastructure. Another key message I think we're getting from this first day is that there is no one solution to things. We're still developing a lot of different solutions in different corners, and one of the most important things we can do is learn from one another. If you don't know what's happening on campus, why libraries are invested not only in knowledge dissemination and infrastructure, as well as paying the bills for subscriptions, just ask. If you're not familiar with how open infrastructure is playing a role in the landscape and the ecosystem these days, there's lots of information out there to find out, and the recordings from this meeting over the last several years are a great place to start. Okay, need to stop talking. Thank you so much. Really fantastic start. Just a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for joining. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. And I think that's all I'm meant to say. See you later.